On average, people today are getting married later than previous generations. In fact, the average age of first marriage is now over 27 for men and nearly 29 for women. But why are people waiting so long to get hitched? And does this trend have anything to do with how much money they make? To answer these questions, let's look at some data. The Council of Contemporary Families asked respondents about their ideal age to marry. Men said 26 while women said 24. The average age of first marriage has been creeping up since the 1960s, when it was 24 men and 18 for women. You can also see that age of first marriage for both men and women peaked in the early 1950s. It's just after World War II. After that, it gradually declined until the 1960s, when there was a baby boom. Then after that, it gradually increased again. But other than two dips during and right after wars, the trend has generally been an increase in age of first marriage. So why are people marrying later? One reason is that we're getting more educated, according to data from the U.S. Census Bureau. In 1940, only 11% of women aged 15 to 24 had bachelor's degrees. By 2018, that number had risen to 34%. For men that age in the same time period, the rate went from 7% to 28%. Having a college degree is correlated with marrying later. In 2018, the median age of first marriage for women with bachelor's degrees was 28.4 compared to 25.6 for those without. For men, the numbers were 30.6 and 27.4 respectively. This makes sense because going to college takes time, and delaying marriage allows students to focus on their studies. It could also be that people who want to go to college tend to be more educated and intelligent, and therefore smarter about making life decisions like when to settle down. Or maybe having a higher education simply means having access to better birth control options. Another explanation for the delay in marriage is that people are prioritizing their careers. For many, climbing the career ladder is a lot like climbing a mountain. There's a peak you're trying to reach. Getting married and raising kids makes that climb more difficult. For example, if both spouses work, the chances of pregnancy decrease by 15% for each hour past 5 that one spouse works. So couples that choose to wait until later in life to get married are often those whose primary focus is their career. In addition to education and career, other factors that can delay marriage include living with parents, cohabitation, and divorce. As you can see, people are increasingly living with their parents longer, which may mean that they have less need or desire to get married. Cohabitation may also play a role because it provides an alternative to marriage. More and more couples are choosing to live together before tying the knot or instead of getting married altogether. If your parents got divorced, it could make you more hesitant to get married yourself. All of these trends help explain why people are getting married as young as their parents did. They don't necessarily explain why people are getting married later. Are there external forces at play here? Maybe. There's a popular theory called the M theory of marriage. M stands for money. According to proponents of the theory, people will marry when they feel financially secure enough to support themselves and a family. The idea is that a certain income threshold needs to be reached before marriage is viable, and the theory seems to hold up. The Pew Research Center found that the percentage of adults who say they would not consider marrying someone who earns less money than them has gone from 36% in 1997 to 48% in 2016. That means that a lot more people are thinking about money when it comes to marriage. And it's not just because people are more concerned about money, they're also worried about their partner's earning potential. As you can see, the percentage of people who say they would not marry someone who doesn't have a job has gone from 43% in 1997 to 60% in 2016. And the share saying they would marry someone earning less money than they are has gone from 45% to 71%. So what exactly is stopping everyone from reaching that magic money threshold? Well, wages haven't kept pace with inflation in the U.S. since the 1970s, and recent wage growth has gone mostly to higher earners. In fact, between 1979 and 2018, real wages for the bottom 99% of earners adjusted for inflation grew by just 10%.
Ow.
In contrast, wages for the top 1% grew by 65%. This is largely due to the fact that higher-skilled workers are getting paid more. At the same time, low-skilled workers have seen stagnant wages, because the types of jobs that require low skills are becoming more automated. For example, cashiers. Toll booth operators and telemarketers are increasingly being replaced by self-checkout kiosks, automated phone systems, and AI chatbots. On top of that, globalization has made it easier for companies to outsource low-skilled jobs to lower-cost countries. Between 1990 and 2016, China and India accounted for about half of the net loss in U.S. manufacturing jobs. All of this has led to wage inequality. And according to our marriage theory, it's one of the reasons why people are waiting longer to get married. But there's another possible culprit: housing. A 2019 study by the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas found that rising housing costs were responsible for the slowdown in marriage rates. Specifically, the study found that a 10% increase in local housing prices led to a 4% decrease in the marriage rate. Why? Well, buying a house is expensive, and owning a home is a major financial responsibility. Therefore, it makes sense that people want to be financially stable before taking that step. What's interesting is that the study found that the impact of rising housing prices on marriage rates is greater for younger people. This suggests that millennials are particularly affected by high housing costs. And it's no secret that they're having a hard time affording homes. In fact, they're renting longer than previous generations and buying homes later. According to a report from Fannie Mae, millennials are 15 percentage points less likely than previous generations to own a home at age 30. And when they do buy a home, it's later in life and for less money. But if people are waiting to get married because of high housing costs, then shouldn't we see a similar delay in childbearing? After all, having kids is also expensive and a big responsibility. Yet the age of first-time mothers is not increasing. In fact, according to the CDC, the average age of a first-time mother in the U.S. peaked in 2007 at 25.5 years old and has been decreasing ever since. This suggests that people are still having kids but forgoing the associated costs of raising a family. How well? According to a Brookings Institution report, Americans are increasingly having children out of wedlock. In 1960, only 5% of babies were born to unmarried mothers. By 2018, that number had risen to 39%. This is happening because people are living together without getting married, as we mentioned earlier. Cohabitation has become more common over the past few decades, especially among younger people. It provides a way to test drive marriage without actually committing to it. In fact, most couples who cohabitate eventually get married or have kids. So it seems that many people use this living arrangement to figure out whether or not they're really ready for marriage and kids. Now you might be wondering, are people having kids just because they don't want to get married? Not really. The decision to have kids is influenced by a variety of factors, including age, education, income, and whether or not they've had kids before. But having a cohabiting partner is also a strong predictor of childbearing. If you look at the percentage of women who have given birth within 5 years of first forming a cohabiting relationship, you can see that it's almost the same whether or not they're married. So to answer the question posed in the beginning of this video, yes. How much money you make does have something to do with when you get married. According to our theory, people won't get married until they feel financially secure, which we measure by whether or not they're making enough money to buy a house. And according to data from the Dallas Fed, rising housing costs are a big reason why people are waiting longer to get married. But that doesn't mean that money is the only thing people are thinking about when it comes to marriage. Other factors such as age, education, career, and perhaps even parenting experience play a role too.